Welcome to this series on reading music. This video contains lesson 3 of 5. In this lesson, we'll talk about the concepts of up and down, steps and skips, and then whole steps and half steps. In the first video of this series, we gave an introduction about the sorts of things that can be found in sheet music and reassured you that you don't need to know it all to get some use out of it. We identified 9 basic concepts that we think will help you progress in your ability to get benefit from printed music. Then we talked about the first of those 9 topics, notes, rests, and their values. In the second video, we discussed time signatures and bars. Then we talked about how to integrate learnings from the first 3 of the 9 basic topics. We'll continue to build on those concepts in this video, so if you haven't watched those yet, I would encourage you to do so before you watch this one. Let's look now at the movement of pitches. We call some pitches high, like this, ba, and other pitches low, like this, ba. But if you think about it, there's nothing that makes one note actually higher or lower than another. They're just different. If you think high when you're singing a high note, it's quite likely you'll strain or screech. If you can think of all the notes being on the same level, your sound may be more even and more beautiful. But that's neither here nor there. In printed music, higher notes are printed higher on the page than lower notes. If your eyes go up when you go from one note to another, the second one is higher, as in the first example. If your eyes go down from one to another, the second one is lower, as in the second example. The vertical distance between 2 notes on the page tells you how much higher or lower one note is. If one note is on a space, and the next is on the line just above that, as in the example, we say they are a step apart, as on that stairway on the right. Notes have names like A, B, and C. 2 notes that are a step apart will have names that are 1 letter apart. In the example, the 2 notes are B and C. If 2 notes are farther apart than 1 step, in other words, if there is at least 1 line or space between them, we say this is a skip. You can skip 1 step, as in the first example, from F to A. Whoops! I forgot to mention that the note names only go from A to G. So in this case, the first note is F, the skip note, the one with the red X on it, is G. Then we start over and the next note is A, but they're still only 2 steps apart. In the second example, 3 steps are skipped. You see the 3 X's. And the 2 notes are D and G. We skip, going down, C, B, and A. Those note names only apply in treble clef, which we're not really going to talk about. I'll just say that the notes on the staff can have different names depending on the clef, a special symbol that appears at the left end of every staff. This pretty curly symbol that just appeared on the left and looks a bit like a backwards ampersand is called a treble clef. You may have heard of sharps, flats, and naturals. These are variations that apply to notes. So a G note can be a G natural, a G sharp, or a G flat, and they're all written on the same line. There's another indication at the beginning of a staff called a key signature that tells you which of those 3, natural, flat, or sharp, will be the default for each note. It might say, for example, that every time you see a B, it will be a B flat, unless otherwise marked. Knowing the key signature would be helpful if you wanted to play your part on a piano or other instrument, but for singing, usually it just sounds right when you sing the right one, so we're not going to look at the key signature in this video series. When you look at a piano, you see both white keys and black keys in a repeating pattern. The black keys only come about halfway down, but they count just the same as the white ones. So when we say the next key, You might want to look at the top of the diagram above, where you'll see both black and white, rather than at the bottom, where you'll only see the white keys. The movement from one key to the next, whether the next key is white or black, is called a half step. The movement from one key to the second one is called a whole step. In the example shown, a C major scale, da 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 da, the black keys are not used. Going from the leftmost C to the D beside it skips the black key in between them. Skipping one key is called a whole step. The same thing happens when moving from D to E. You skip the black key in between them. But when moving from E to F, there's no black or white key between them, so that's a half step. Although not strictly necessary, the distinction between half steps and whole steps is good to know. Sometimes a director might say, that's only a half step and you're doing a whole step. It's smaller than you think, or something like that. Now you'll know what that means. Thanks for watching this third of 5 lessons on reading music. Be sure to check out the rest of the series.